Imagine the ground opening beneath your feet, the light from your headlamp shrinking to a thin, desperate ring, and every step forward feeling like the last choice you will ever make. Welcome to Cave Explain. If you want more stories like this, if you want to understand what happens when the dark under the earth turns dangerous, subscribe now and stay with me until the end. What you will hear in this video are true moments of panic, bravery, error, and sometimes final silence. Each story carries a lesson nobody should ignore. Our first story begins with a family outing that turned into a nightmare. A man who loved caves went ahead of his family to check an entrance. The opening grew tighter the deeper he went. He found a crawlway that seemed to promise access to a larger passage, but the map in his hand did not match the cave beneath his boots. He crawled, squeezed, and walked until the map made no sense. Rocks that had fallen from the ceiling blocked passages that the map showed as clear. He tried to retrace his steps and found the way he thought was behind him buried in dirt and stone. Confused and alarmed, he marked his path with torn pieces of paper and X marks in the dust. He counted steps, tried to keep his bearings, and realized, with a sickening clarity, that the passageway looped back on itself. He had been walking in a circle. Hours blurred into each other. Fatigue and thirst crept in. Panic rose, but memories of the family waiting outside kept him moving. He moved along the walls until a hidden crawlway revealed itself behind a loose rock. He crawled out into daylight after what felt like an endless night underground. He emerged exhausted and changed. The lesson is simple and brutal: never assume a map is enough, never enter alone when people you care about are waiting at the mouth of a cave, and never trust your bearings until you are certain of the route. Not far from that kind of dilemma is the story of a young teenager who wanted to prove himself to older cavers. He volunteered to squeeze through a notorious tight tunnel known by seasoned explorers as the gun barrel. It was narrow, rough, and long. He moved forward with determination, every inch a struggle, until his knee slipped into a crack in the cave floor and locked. Helpless, shoulder to shoulder with friends who could not pass him, he became the blockage that held the whole group hostage. They tried to pull him free, but the pain was unbearable. Temperature dropped. Rescuers arrived and the solution, when it came, was humble and patient, soap and careful, gentle teamwork. A soapy film around the stuck limb, coordinated pulls, and the refusal to force a broken limb free all made the difference. This is a reminder that preparation and patience matter, and that no amount of bravado can replace the calm, methodical work that frees a trapped person. Across the continent, a different kind of error produced a tragic result. A group of friends, some inexperienced, pushed past posted warnings in the heat of the moment. One of them left the group after an argument and plunged deeper into the cave alone. At first his independence felt triumphant. Hours stretched. Light grew dim. The simple act of turning a flashlight off to conserve batteries became a cruel miscalculation when the light failed. He was forced to attempt to make his way out in the dark with frozen ground under him, and when his flashlight finally died, the deep cold clinched. A careful local search began only after family and friends realized days had passed. The missing caver was found, shivering from hypothermia and weakened by long exposure to cold and wet conditions. The rescue took persistence, local knowledge, and the refusal to give up until the person was carried out and treated. The hard truth is that caves are cold places that sap heat and hope, and the smallest extra piece of gear, a spare light, a proper jacket, can be the difference between a story and a tragedy. There are times when impatience and pride push people to make choices that the cave will punish. In one case, a novice group persuaded a more experienced friend to follow them into tight passages, and he made a critical error by choosing the wrong orientation. He shoved into a narrowing that tightened his chest and trapped him head first. They had not left a third person outside as a rule demanded, so when one companion volunteered to go for help, the trapped man was left to the slow slide of failing circulation and rising panic. Rescue came, chipping away rock and easing pressure, but the scars of a near disaster can last a lifetime. This is why the most repeated advice from professional cavers is not a suggestion, it is a rule: go in groups of 3 when you tackle narrow or unfamiliar routes. One person stays with the patient, one goes for help, and a third keeps the plan steady. Cave diving is another world of danger where the sea mixes with stone. Divers can be talented technicians, but even the best face the quiet terror of an overhead environment where a single mistake with air management or a fin can create an impossible situation. Strong currents, silt that turns water to milk, and passages that suddenly pinch down make underwater caves unforgiving. Even those who know what they are doing have died because silt reduced visibility to zero, because a tank became entangled, or because a diver tried to squeeze through a narrowing and became stuck while air ran low. Cave diving demands special training, redundant equipment, and a respect for the boundary between the cavern and the true cave. If you are a diver, a deeper understanding of gas management and guideline discipline is not optional. The ocean below the land will not give second chances. Some stories begin with a common mistake, underestimating the cave. A pair of curious teenagers wandered past the mapped passage and found a narrow crack that had been quiet for centuries. While they pushed forward, a hidden rock shifted. A boulder the size of a small car broke free and sealed the entry behind them. Trapped in a tiny coffin of stone, they fought stale air and cramps in the slow, terrifying sense that the surface was slipping away. Their friends ran for help and professionals arrived with chisels, pulleys, and a pulley plan that took shifts, patience, and muscle. At the end, slow and steady efforts paid off. They were pulled into daylight, shaken and wiser. This story holds a warning: a few minutes of curiosity underground can turn into hours of rescue work and a lifetime of lessons. Not every rescue ends in survival. In a scene repeated across different caves and decades, a party ignored posted warnings and pushed into a passage designed for hours of training and specialized gear. The leader chose to brave a narrow underwater passage, and then, halfway in, recognized that air was dropping faster than expected. Panic spread like fog. People separated. Lights disappeared. When the final surfacing occurred, some returned shaken and alive, while others did not. In the worst cases, rescuers arrived too late. It is a shame that the signs posted at the threshold are sometimes the last admonition visited by someone who will not make it back. Then there are the complex technical rescues that become legends in the caving community. A veteran caver working in one of the deepest, most complex caves on the continent found his leg trapped under a loosened boulder. He was many miles from the entrance. The team with him was skilled, and because of his own experience he led parts of his extraction. Communication flowed between the patient and the rescuers over hours and days. A team used ropes and pulleys and a carefully built stretcher, tending his wounds, feeding him, and moving him a few feet at a time through squeezes and vertical drops. They hauled him up and out. He was exhausted but survived. These rescues take more than courage. They take engineering, medical skill, and the faith of a team that will move someone inch by painful inch until the surface light is within reach. Many tragedies share the same root, a moment where the cave's rules were not followed. A man climbs down a vertical shaft with a rope that has been used many times. The rope passes over a sharp rock ledge, and unseen wear weakens it over time. When the rope finally fails, a fall from great height leaves no chance. Safe rope rigging, routine inspection of gear, and the discipline to retire any line that shows signs of wear are literally life-saving practices. Another repeated cause is improvisation. Someone decides to widen a crawl with a hammer and chisel to make the passage easier. A collapse follows. 3 people on the far side are trapped because of a wrong-handed modification. The natural cave is a structure that took millennia to shape. Quick fixes can destabilize it in an instant. There are stories of extraordinary endurance and of kindness from strangers. Rescuers have worked for days in freezing water and mud, stripping down the rope through narrow slots, building supports from timber and steel, chiseling slowly with hands numb from cold. In one international rescue, more than 100 professionals from different organizations worked in shifts to extract a badly injured explorer from deep inside an uncharted system. They used small controlled explosives to clear blockages, they paused to check the patient's vitals, and they kept moving until the person was airlifted to a hospital. These efforts show the best side of the caving community, the readiness to risk everything to bring someone home. Not all incidents are about people alone. pets, hikers, and tourists have been lost when a familiar path hides a sudden drop or a lava tube gives way. A woman lost her dogs in an area of lava tubes and tried to reach them through a tiny opening. She became trapped upside down, her body was pinned in a narrow tube and time and blood pooling worked against her. Rescuers worked desperately, but she could not be saved. The heartbreak of those cases reminds us that curiosity about the underground must always be met with the humility to accept limits. In every one of these narratives, there is a mirror held up to our choices. Some of the most deadly mistakes are avoidable. Never cave alone. Go with a properly practiced team. Respect the rule of 3 for narrow passages. Carry redundant light sources and warm clothing. If you are diving, only go with specialized cave diving training and redundant air. Inspect every piece of rope and hardware before descent. Never modify a cave without expert evaluation. Obey posted warnings. Tell someone on the surface exactly where you are going and when you plan to return. The human stories are invaluable for understanding what to do next. A woman who heard her friend's lamp fail chose to stay put and wait for help, following her training, but then grew impatient and tried to find her way back alone. She became more lost, and the lack of food and warmth played tricks on her mind. After long hours, her voice called out from a remote chamber and rescuers found her weak and confused. She survived, but the lesson was obvious: training and discipline matter even more when everything is going wrong. Another rescuer, faced with a friend's impossible fall, did not let the official team give up. He shouldered ropes and went alone into the narrowest passages until he found the victim and carried him out. Sometimes heroism looks like stubborn, physical work done without the glare of the spotlight. There's also a thread that runs through the darkest of cave narratives: the way a single small decision multiplies. A shortcut taken in haste, a light left unchecked, an argument that fractures a group, a leader who ignores posted warnings, a rope that was not retired when frayed. All of these are small choices that become the hinge of survival or death. For viewers who love adventure, take this in: the cave does not care about your pride. It cares only that you respect its rules. Now I want to ask you something. Which story moved you most? Which choice would you have made differently inside the cave? If you were there in a similar situation, would you wait for help or try to find your own way out? Share your thoughts below in the comments. Your answers matter because when we study errors together, we reduce the chance of repeating them. Before we close, here are clear, practical takeaways you can act on right now. Always check your lights and bring backups. Always tell someone the exact route and expected time of return. Wear layered clothing and bring ways to keep yourself warm. Never dive into an overhead environment without formal cave diving certification and redundant air systems. Inspect all ropes and hardware at the start of every trip. When in doubt, turn back. If you encounter an emergency, slow down, protect the airway and body temperature, leave notes or markings only when they help others, and get help from trained cave rescue professionals as quickly as possible. If this video has changed the way you think about underground exploration, please show your support for Cave Explain. Hit the subscribe button now so you do not miss the detailed breakdown episodes where we analyze equipment failures and rescues step by step. If you found the stories gripping, press like and share this video so more people learn the tiny habits that can save lives. Leave a comment with your thoughts and your own caving experiences if you have them. I read every comment and I want to know which story surprised you the most and why. Thank you for watching this careful look into the hidden risks beneath our feet. Stay curious, stay prepared, and above all, stay safe. I will see you in the next video on Cave Explain, where we will unpack one of these incidents and show exactly what went wrong and what equipment and decisions would have made the difference.